Cybernetics or Control and Communication in the Animal and the Machine. Now, little did Norbert know that he was beginning to open up the world for the development of neuro-linguistic planning, exploring the systems and theories and communication processes of the world. The future is about to change.
This video is brought to you by Clinical Hypnosis, Australia and Hypnosis New Zealand. Ready to break those habits? Let our professional hypnotherapist help you make the change today.
So let's delve into a bit of history, a bit of a timeline when it comes to neuro-linguistic program. I'm your teacher, Trish Bellin, from Bellin & Palmer Specialty Hypnosis Training. So how did we become part of this world where language was so important and so influential? As I said in my previous video, why is it that someone can be so great at something and another person can do seemingly the exact same thing and then completely fail at it? It all comes down to the way you express yourself when it comes to language. So let's delve into an overview of the founders and where did this all begin? How did it get started? Now understand that this is a basic history, and you can find links to the books down into the description, so that way you can delve a little bit deeper. So right at the beginning, like I said before, in 1949, Norbert Wiener publishes the book Cybernetics or Control and Communication in the Animal and the Machine. This contributed to NLP being explored. This is what started the wheels turning. There was a theory that communication has a process, and the way we choose those processes can really determine the outcome in the way that we express ourselves. Now fast forwarding about 7 years, George A. Miller publishes a book known as The Magical Number 7, Plus or Minus 2. This introduces key ideas about human information processing and their capacity to process it. It later influences neuro-linguistic programming to understand what these mental processes exactly are, to narrow it right down to the pinpoint words that were going on for the path of expression. The following year, Noam Chomsky publishes Syntactic Structures. Chomsky's theory was transformational grammar influenced the linguistic aspects, and it particularly had this model, which has been known now as the meta model. There were specific steps that were made so that you can go from A to B to C to achieve the outcome of X, Y, and Z. In 1964, Virginia Satir publishes a book known as Conjoint Family Theory. Now, this is where it starts to get a bit interesting, because this was developed as family therapy, and these techniques were later modelled by Bandler and Grinder in creating what we know as neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP models, today. In 1967, Alfred Korzybski works on a general semantics, and particularly it's in the area of science and sanity, and it becomes influential. What happens here is when we're looking at these sciences and these sanities, it emphasizes the relationship between language and the behavior. Now this is where the idea of NLP becomes central. It's where it comes into the core. How is it that the way we express ourselves becomes an actionary process for an outcome? And this is where in 1972, Richard Bandler and John Grinder, the collaborators that we're more familiar with today, begin to model the communication patterns and the therapeutic techniques for therapists. They want to lay the foundations of NLP. They want to understand exactly what those steps are and how they can lead to those outcomes, processes, and actions. So from 1972 to 1975, there's another book published, and it's called The Structure of Magic No. 1. And it's by Bandler and Grinder again, and it introduces the meta model, the set of linguistic patterns for clarifying the vague language. A couple of years later, The Structure of Magic 2 comes out, where the meta model and its application is then distinguished of how it's done from language and how it can be placed into therapy so that therapists can help those that are struggling and want to level up. In 1980, the publication of Frogs into Princes by Bandler Grinder, this becomes very popular in the NLP scene because it presents those specific techniques and then the principles behind it and where it's all coming from. So as you can imagine, from this time onwards, there's a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon, and then we start to see, how is it that these lines are starting to be blurred? So in 1981, the NLP University was established by Robert Dilts and Judith Delosier and quite a few others. They were focusing their academic attention and their theoretical development on NLP. What exactly was non-negotiable? What it is that could be ticking off all those boxes? Because there were some things that definitely grayed the lines when it came to communication, and then there were other things that seemed to be the exact same thing. However, they had been given a different name or a different style, yet the outcome was exactly the same. It's like people were just coming in, mixing up the same old pot of paint, and then selling it under a different coloured name. It created a lot of confusion, and still to this day, it does occur. So let's fast forward to 1990, where Tad James comes onto the scene, coining timeline therapy technique. Now, this particular technique, you have to understand, has been coined, and it's also known as gestalting or gestalting in its original form. It's where people travel back in time to a place where they got hurt and they learnt new lessons about themselves. It's a fantastic technique. It's absolutely wonderful. It helps clients through all those past events by changing their perception, by relearning new and different forms of language within themselves, and why it is they acted the way they did at that time, and how they can change their perception of that into the future, so that way they can settle with those outcomes a little bit better. It's great for releasing grief and stress and guilt, those things that get kind of stuck deep down inside of us. But gestalting is the original form, and Tad James just coined the name timeline therapy. As we fast forward 1994, 2001, Richard Bandler releases a new book, and this one is called Get the Life You Want: The Secrets to Quick and Lasting Life Changes with Neuro-Linguistic Program. This made NLP techniques more accessible to the public, so it wasn't just for therapists anymore or any kind of science. It was literally just, hey, if you want to improve your life, if you want to improve the way that you communicate to get a better outcome, then learn NLP. And as we delve a bit deeper, in 2003, the NLP Comprehensive gets published. This is where the new technology of achievements is fully lodged, and this is what it exactly is. So the guide for NLP techniques and their applications is not only for professional application, but for personal as well, because anybody can really delve into their language patterns and learn how to improve them and how to communicate just a little bit better. So from here, we've had many reconstructions when it comes to the delivery of NLP, whether some people have chosen the meta model, some people have chosen to adapt the language and make it more spiritual, or some people have taken on the extra effort to really coin something that they say is theirs and nobody else's. Hey, each to their own, whatever you need to do. But some people are also naturally born with NLP language techniques. There are some people out there that are just really, really good at sales, absolutely amazing at motivation, and just talking in general. They have these meta models, they have this patience and these understandings towards their actions and the outcomes. And nobody is saying that they're perfect, but they're definitely a little bit better than the rest of us. So, what should you two do when it comes to your NLP language? Well, continue watching these videos as I release them every couple of weeks, and ensure that you just practice them. That's all you've got to do. Practice them, tweak them, and keep on going until the system works exactly the way you want it to. So this has been just a brief history of the NLP structure, and you can delve deeper into the finer sections of history by jumping on Google or diving into the world of the articles and blogs that are available right at your fingertips. My name's Trish Palin, and thank you for watching this video with me.